Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of NASCAR DFS Preview. I'm Austin with the Sports Chief, and here we have Yacs on the show this year. Yacs does some wrestling coverage. What else do you do, Yacs, with the Sports Chief? Song of the day?
Song of the day, WWE, AEW, movies here and there. A little bit of everything.
Yeah. So we just try to, at Sports Chief, we try to cover a little bit of everything. And we're local here in North Carolina, so we love NASCAR. I've did the NASCAR videos for like 2 years going now, and what we're starting off here is the Daytona 500. What we're going to do a little bit different this year is I'm going to cover DraftKings as always, and Yachts here is going to cover FanDuel. So we're kind of going to go over the scoring and outputs for both formats for your DFS lineups, hopefully help you make a winning lineup this time. So we'll kind of break down like cash game strategy, tournament strategy, kind of see what we're doing here. And hopefully we can continue to do these great videos every week. We have a new setup here. We got the one microphone. We're at a table, so a little bit of a different backdrop here as well. So you have anything else to add there?
Not really.
No?
Not
Okay.
really.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and tackle the DraftKings lineup here. So what we're looking at, DraftKings has given us Denny Hamlin starting in 25th at 10-4. Chase Elliott starting in 12th at 10-3. Brad Keselowski starting in 24th at 10-1. And Ryan Blaney starting in 14th at 10,000. So to give you a little bit of a breakdown of how Daytona International Speedway is, it's a 2.5-mile oval. Really, it's a crapshoot, to be honest with you. In terms of DFS, this is the hardest race between this and Talladega. You really... there's really only one strategy, and hopefully you can pick drivers that finish towards the back end of the field. And in DraftKings, you get 1 point per pass. So say a driver starts in 40th, ends up winning the race, they not only get the 45 points that you get for winning the race, they get 39 added to it for place differential. Also, one thing to note about what DraftKings has did this year is they have cut down on the fastest lap as 0.45 instead of 0.5. So that's one thing we'll have to monitor as well. Laps led are a quarter point as always. And also what they have done is from 10th to 11th, they've got a little buffer there. So in 10th place, you get 34 points. Kind of matter of subtraction. So first you have 45 points, second's 42, and then so on and so forth. But once you get to that 10th spot, it's 34. 11th place is 32 points. So they like cut 33 out altogether. And from 20 to 21, it's 23 to 21 points. From 30th to 31st, it's 12 to 10. So it does help a little bit more if you put drivers kind of in that realm there. So that's one thing to note about doing our lineups here. So right now, as we all know, Denny Hamlin has been a dominant force at Daytona. He's won here 3 times. His average finish actually is 16.3. He's one of the better drivers here, but a lot of the drivers have higher average finishes because really if you win a race and then you wreck the next time, you're finishing in the 30s. It's pretty automatic. And, I mean, your average finish is just going to take a tanking. So it's going to be 20-something. So looking here at our lineup, it's really hard not to go Denny Hamlin. But I'm going to scroll through here and go to the very bottom. Because they actually did have qualifying in the Cup Series, unlike the Xfinity Series where they actually rained out. Which is unfortunate. But here you have like Joey Gase at 28th. Cody Ware at 35th, Quinn Houff at 33rd, Cope 32, 37, Blicky. I'm not really fond of picking any of those Rick Ware drivers or the Starcom Racing drivers just because they are going to ride around in the back, but if there's long green flag runs, they probably will not finish up towards the front. They're going to be laps down. They're going to have to rely upon a lot of wrecks, which I think wreck avoidance does factor into our lineups, but not 100%. So what I'm looking at here is Kaz Grala. So Kaz Grala starting in 40th spot. He's dead last. The 16 car, which is actually Colleague Racing. So they have ran some Cup Series races, but not many. And Kaz Grala has actually won a race at Daytona in the Truck Series a couple years back. He's starting in 40th. The place differential is just too good. I'm going with Kaz Grala at 4,900. He's too good of a value. And, you know, even if he wrecks and gets 30th or so, we're going to get positive EV. We're not going to be sitting at a negative number, whereas you pick like a Byron or Bowman and they might lead 100 laps and wreck and still be in a bad situation. So we're going with Kaz Grala. Even though he's a rookie, I still like that number. Austin Cendrick is another driver that I really like. So he's starting in 39th spot. He's got Penske Racing engines. He doesn't have a great history at Daytona in terms of the Xfinity or Truck Series. He's never won here, and he's actually the only driver that I'm not going to pick today that hasn't won here, at least in one of the top 3 series. But again, it gives us a ton of salary cap room at $97.50. So I'm going with Austin Cendrick there. Going through here, Corey Lejoy was one of my favorite picks to choose from. He's driving the Ashwagandha number 7 Spire Motorsports car, and he normally hangs around. He likes to say his term is stacking pennies. So I know that they're going to try to keep his car on the track for sure. Spire's going to be a little better than what he's used to, but that starting position is just too high for me. Another driver that is really good, actually, so at Daytona. So Michael Mcdowell is starting in 17th spot. Michael McDowell's average finish here is 20.4, which, you hear that at any other track, and it sounds terrible. But Michael McDowell has not finished outside the top 30 in 6 years. So he has finished within the top 30 since 2015, which is pretty remarkable. Now, this would probably be, if I was to choose him, this would be the race that he would ultimately not finish in the top 30. But I'm not going to go with him there. What I'm looking at here, let's just keep scrolling here. Tyler Reddick, he's actually won here before in the Xfinity Series. Not sure if he's won Truck Series yet or not. But a driver I'm going with is Ross Chastain, starting in 34th. So he's at 7,800. Ross has won in the Xfinity Series. I just kind of like him to kind of hang around, basically, and those positive EV is what I'm looking at. I feel very confident that he can finish above that 34 spot, and the 42 car is decently fast, I'm sure. So scrolling up here, Eric Jones is going to be pretty chalky at the 31st spot. Tyler Reddick's going to be pretty chalky at 29th. Chase Briscoe starting in 30th. I don't love picking rookies, and here I am picking 2 rookies, but Chase Briscoe is just a little too high up for me to go with. Stuart Haas is bad fast, though. Eric Almarola looked really quick. Kyle Larson is actually another driver just like Michael McDowell, who has not finished outside the top 30 at Daytona in 6 years. His average finish was around 22nd. He's one that if you want to, in a tournament strategy, go with Kyle Larson. That's a pretty good option, starting in 13th spot. What I am going to go with here, so my top option is Denny Hamlin. I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin. I know probably 70% of the field is going to be on Denny Hamlin, but the likelihood of him finishing outside the top 25 is pretty unlikely. So I'm going with Denny Hamlin. Also, I'm going with Brad Keselowski starting in 24th. I think those 2 drivers, they look fast enough in the duels. Practice is really hard to go off of because I think they ran like 3 minutes worth of practice in the second one. But going with Brad Keselowski starting in 24th at 10-1. And then I'm going with Martin Truex Jr. As far as the top tier drivers starting in 26, I know Truex is not that great at these plate tracks. Well, they're not really plates anymore. They're tapered spacers. But he has an Xfinity win. Brad Keselowski's got a win, and Denny Hamlin has won here 3 times. So they're no strangers to victory lane. And yeah, so this is what I'm basically going with. So let's just clean it up here on the Draftkings side. So Denny Hamlin starting in 25th, fading Chase Elliott, going with Brad Keselowski, fading Blaney, Logano, Harvick, and Kyle Busch just because of their starting spots. Blaney is a pretty good one for me that I like to pick. He actually led over 100 laps a couple years ago. But going with Martin Truex Jr. starting in 26th. And scrolling on down here, going with Chastain starting in 34th. Austin Cendrick starting in 39th at 6,100. And then our cheap option is Kaz Grala at 4,900. So that's what I'm rolling out here. Nothing spectacular, nothing fancy. I can't give you a whole lot of data because this is really a crapshoot, to be honest with you. So that's what we're rolling out on DraftKings. So let's just take a look here at our FanDuel lineup.
Well, I just want to say that it's great to finally be on these videos, and it's great to be in for another NASCAR season. Like he said, Daytona is a total crapshoot, but there's a lot of new teams and a lot of changes that have gone on in this offseason. So it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds as the season progresses. So I'm just going to jump right in. Like AustYn mentioned before, Denny Hamlin is the favorite. He is the best at super speedways. The way I pick lineups personally, I look at like the last 3 years and how they performed over the last 2 to 3 years. It just depends. So over the last 6 races at Daytona, Denny Hamlin has a 12th place finish. He has won twice, and he has 4 top 5s. So I'm just going to get it out of the way and just pick Denny Hamlin right off the bat, because I think you have to have him in your lineup. Even though he's going to be chalky, I feel like you have to have him. Scrolling down, what AustYn didn't mention that I was interested in before was there are a lot of cars going to backup. As of now, I think it's like 9 backup cars that are going to be entering the field, and Brad Keselowski is one of them. Also, he has never won a Daytona 500, so that could be another thing. Hey, he could be really wanting to win this one, sort of thing. I mean, they all want to win, but it's just one of those things. He's one to keep an eye on, that's for sure. And Kyle Busch is another guy that's in that realm.
Number 1.
But as we go down, I have a different mentality picking FanDuel lineups. Lapped, you get 0.1 for a lap completed. And I think that's going to be a huge thing going into the Daytona 500, because if you stay in the race, you're just going to accumulate more points. And those 20 points at the end of the race could be a big factor. Even though he's going to a backup car, probably. It's not a certainty yet. But I feel like I have to pick Alex Bowman, because there are so many other drivers that are going to backup cars. They're all in the same boat. So even though Alex Bowman is starting first, technically, most of the drivers are moving to the back of the pack. So I don't think you're going to lose too much there, because a third of the drivers are moving to the back of the pack. What I'm concerned with here are laps completed. And in my research, I found that Alex Bowman has, in the last 6 Daytona races, has only missed 9 laps. And that's 99.2%. So when I was picking, I felt like Alex Bowman, he was the leader for sure in laps completed. I feel like that's a big factor into making a winning lineup, at Daytona especially. So that was the reason I chose Alex Bowman. So we're moving on down, and I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom like AustYn does in his videos. Casgrala was a name that I wrote down because he has a good history at Daytona. He was the 2017 truck winner at Daytona, and in the Xfinity Series, he has 2 top 5s in only 2 races. So he has a good history, and I think he could do it again. Just get you some more value at the 40th starting position, especially at 4,500 there. Scrolling on down, I felt like Ty Dillon was going to be a good one, but unfortunately he missed out on the race. Looking on down to the 2000, Derek Cope. What a story he's had. 2004 Daytona 500 was his last entry in the Daytona 500. So he has missed the race over the last 17 years. And he is 62 years old, and he is hopping right back into a car. I'm not expecting him to do anything, but it's an interesting name to see pop up in 2021 for sure. I don't, like AustYn said, I don't think these options down here, they're not really worth it, because you just don't know. Daytona, you really don't know how to pick. And I mean, you want the better drivers, but at the same time, it's a crapshoot. You really don't know who to pick, and it just makes things a lot tougher. Scrolling on up, like AustYn said, Eric Jones is another possibility that could be interesting in a new car, Richard Petty Motorsports. So That's one to keep an eye on. In the same boat, I'm not going to pick him, but in the same boat, Ryan Newman completes a lot of laps at Daytona. As I was doing my research, I saw in the last 6 Talladega races, he's completed 100% of his laps. And in Daytona, I think he's just 4 laps behind Alex Bowman. So, I mean, he's right on par with completing laps. But one thing to keep an eye on with Ryan Newman, he is cheap. He's $6,000. The 7th starting spot's a little high, but I think he's one that could hang in there. But as I was saying, last year was the big wreck that he was in, and he could be looking to be at the top, But like AustYn, I'm going with AustYn Cendrick. 6,200. He's in a Penske ride, 39th technical starting spot. I think he's hard to miss. I think he's going to be fast. He was good in the duels. He made a mistake down pit road, but I think he's a fast car. He's got a fast car. He, in the last 4 Xfinity races for Penske, he has a 10.5 finishing spot. So he's good at Daytona. He's good at a lot of tracks, especially road courses. But he's good at big super speedways. But scrolling up, Ross Chastain. AustYn picked Ross Chastain, and I think 34th starting spot. He's in a new ride. He has good experience at a lot of these tracks because he's been in the Cup Series for a few years with odd number of teams. I'm picking Ross Chastain, and even though he's going to a backup car, I mean, he's going to the back of the pack. He's probably going to be starting around the same spot that he's already in. In 13 Xfinity Series races, he has been running at the finish of all of them. That is one thing to keep an eye on, and I mean, that just proves that he can stick around to the end, and that's what you want in the laps completed. You want that 20 points, and I think that's going to really help boost your lineup. And I also wrote down he's completed 97.8% of laps in the Cup Series, and that was with all the odd teams that he was with.
Robinson.
Yeah, everywhere. He's had 5 races at Daytona in the Cup Series, and he's completed roughly 98% of the laps. So that was my strategy going into it. I wanted to get guys that they had good laps completed, and I value that more so than the positional difference because it's only 0.5 in FanDuel. It's not a big deal in Daytona because you can be in the back and you can jump to the front in no time. Scrolling up, a lot of eyes are going to be on the 23 car of Bubba Wallace. He's starting in 6th, 8,500. I mean, if you're willing to take a risk, he's one of the guys that could be interesting in the end because he's been fast in practice. He was fast in the duels. It's going to be interesting to see how this new team plays out with him. Nobody knows, but he's a guy to keep an eye on, that's for sure. Moving on up, Eric Almarola was a dual winner this year, and like AustYn said, they've got a fast car. Stewart-Haas, they've had fast cars at these big speedways, and he's another one to keep an eye on. But I'm not straying too far away from the notion of Alex Bowman with William Byron, and that's who I'm going to pick for my last entry. Going to a backup car like many of these are. The position differential is not going to be a big factor, I don't think. I mean, it's going to take a hit at first, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal once things play out. Well, hopefully not anyway. The biggest thing to keep an eye on about William Byron is he was the last winner of the last Cup Series race at Daytona. So he's proven that he can win at Daytona. He's proven that he can perform well at super speedways. And I think, especially with FanDuel, it's only a 0.5 differential for positions for each one. He's going to take a hit at first, but I think if he stays in the race, it's going to pay big in the end. And like Austin does, we're going to clean this up, and we're going to go right through the lineup again. So, picking the best at Daytona, Denny Hamlin. He's going to be chalky, but I think he's one of those guys that you can't afford to not have in your lineup. Moving on down, we have William Byron at 10-2. A little high, considering he's going to a backup car for sure. But I think in the end, the positional differential is not going to matter. And the same goes for Alex Bowman. We're gonna go with the Hendrick teammates. I think they've always qualified good here, but I think they'll run well too today. And I think both of them are in for big years this year. Personally, Ross Chastain starting in the 34th spot. New car. It's going to be a faster car for sure than what he's used to in the Cup Series. And at 7,500, I think he's a steal. If he stays in the race, he is for sure a steal. And Austin Cendrick in the 33 Penske Racing car, 6,200. This is his absolute first race. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And there we have it.
All right, so there you see a little different breakdown in terms of our FanDuel lineups and our DraftKings lineups. Two totally different DFS systems, setups, and everything. Those laps completed were a thing that I've never really thought about when making a FanDuel lineup. But so that was pretty interesting as well. As you can tell, we've got our retro hats on, both of us. We're ready for NASCAR. We're ready for the Daytona 500. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, this is kind of a new setup for us. This is like a podcast, fireplace, like setup kind of deal. So we're just trying to try some different things here. Hopefully it'll help you out.
All new to us.
That's right, yeah. So trying to get more involved in the NASCAR community in terms of DFS and everything like that. So if you like what you're seeing here, subscribe to our YouTube channel The Sports Chief. Follow us on Twitter at The Sports Chief and on Instagram as well. We have some pictures on there. On our website, thesportschief.com, you can find some wrestling articles, as I mentioned earlier. We have, actually, Garrett's doing a new series where he's ranking the top 100 places to visit in North Carolina. So if you ever so if you ever want to come visit North Carolina, you kind of know what to do. You got 100 things to choose from. So I don't know, he's up to 10 or so right now. So, but yeah, hit that bell notification on YouTube. That'll let you know when our videos go live, and subscribe to our channel and comments. We're more than happy to hear what you have to say for us. So hopefully this helps you out in making your lineups. And we'll see you next week, hopefully.
All right, thank you.